Next, we'll talk about another way of classifying research. All marketing research can be broadly classified into a basic research or an applied research, be it a problem identification research or a problem-solving research. You might have already heard of these terms somewhere, as this classification is not unique to marketing research. In any discipline, there is basic and applied research. Let's take a close look at these terms, one at a time. Basic research is intended to find out general principles governing the relationships between variables. The goal of research is to discover new knowledge that can be generalized across people, place, and time as much as possible. Here are some characteristics of basic research. First, basic research attempts to expand the limits of knowledge. For instance, ever since Richard Perry and his colleagues have proposed ELM, Elaboration Likelihood Model, in 1980s, there have been thousands of research conducted trying to clarify and refine the model. None of those studies were the same. You cannot use the same questionnaire again. Each study is different and unique so that the findings are unique and add value to the existing body of knowledge. To push the envelope, so-called academic journals maintain editorial review board and have multiple reviewers critically evaluate the merit of an article submitted for publication by using double-blind system, in which reviewers and authors do not know who the other parties are. This system ensures objective assessment of the quality of the research. Once accepted, the article is published and everyone around the world can read it to learn what new findings were made. The next person cannot test the same thing, as their research would be considered lacking contribution. Most good journals consider contribution, rigor, and interest as selection criteria. Thus, there is a lot of competition around the world in basic research, regardless of disciplines. There is a lot of check and balance in place. One or two scholars, no matter how brilliant they are, cannot change the true nature of an inquiry. Any lies or falsification of data will eventually be discovered if the findings do not make sense from the theoretical perspective. Researchers around the world, normally professors, test theory from the thousands of different angles until the point there is no new idea to refine the theory. This way, we expand the limits of knowledge in basic research. So, in basic research, researchers tend to do so-called literature review to understand the current state of research on the topic and often draw on theory. Based on the literature review and theory, researchers propose hypotheses and test them by collecting data. Second, basic research generally tries to provide a general knowledge that has not been discovered before. If you find something other researchers already found previously, the value of your research will be minimal and you will have a hard time in getting your research published in academic journals. Third, basic research is not directly involved in the solution to a pragmatic problem. Unlike applied research, basic research is not interested in finding solutions for only a certain organization or a certain situation, because such a constraint would prevent generalization of the findings outside the organization or the situation. Fourth, results from the basic research tend to be conclusive rather than exploratory, because there is a heavy emphasis on theory, which is the coherent body of knowledge. When we base our research on the literature, usually we can find sufficient evidence to support whatever idea you have. So you can formulate a hypothesis, and your goal is to test that hypothesis. So basic research tends to be theory-driven and conclusive as opposed to ad hoc and exploratory. Let's suppose you find an interesting thing from your research, but you didn't anticipate it since the theory didn't allow you to expect such a finding. I mean, you did your due diligence in doing literature review, but there are not much to support the unexpected finding. This situation often arises in research. It did occur to me too. A surprising finding is interesting, so this is not a bad news. What should you do then? Go back to the literature review and do a keyword search thoroughly and see if the paradoxical finding can be explained. If you are able to find a reasonable explanation that is supported by some research, this is a great news. You may be able to present one of the first evidence to refine the theory. If you are able to publish it, some other researchers will pick it up from there and to see if your findings are tenable from a different angle. The theory would not be refined unless there is enough research reinforcing your argument. By this time, I hope that you understand the importance of literature review and theory-based research, and see some of you pursue basic research as your future project. It is a lot of fun reading articles if you are interested in the topic. Once the research is done, you'll become an expert in the topic. Let me give you an example of one of my own research to illustrate a basic research. I conducted this research with 3 of my co-authors, second author being my former student. Our research was published in the Journal of Business Research in 2014. Page 1303 to 1319. In the 6th issue of the volume 67 with the title, Does Paratelic User Mode Matter on the Effectiveness of Interactive Internet Advertising? A Reversal Theory Perspective. Let me briefly introduce this research in the next couple of slides. Reversal theory. According to Apter, reversal theory is a theory of motivation, emotion, and personality, and it concerns how individuals interpret experiences rather than the specific content. One of the meta-motivational states people have is telic versus paratelic, whereas telic state is goal-oriented, serious-minded, and arousal-avoidant. The paratelic state is spontaneous, playful, and arousal-seeking. Individuals swing between these two modes. Let me explain the theory a little more. If you are in telic mode, which is a serious-minded mode, and encounter a high level of arousal, you'll be anxious and feel unpleasant as a result. As the level of arousal drops, you'll be more and more relaxed and feel more pleasant as a result. In contrast, if you are in a paratelic mode, which is a playful mode, and encounter low level of arousal, you'll be bored and feel unpleasant. As the level of arousal increases, you'll be more and more excited and feel more pleasant as a result. Therefore, the same high arousal level can be interpreted as an anxiety or excitement, depending on the person's bistable state or mode interpreting the motivational experience. If you are in telic mode, which is a serious-minded mode, we learned that high arousal makes you feel unpleasant, whereas low arousal makes you feel pleasant. An interactive ad will arouse you more than a non-interactive ad. Therefore, you'll be more pleasant when you watch a static banner than an animating banner. So we made it as hypothesis 1A. If you are in a paratelic mode, which is a playful mode, We learned that high arousal makes you feel pleasant, whereas a low arousal makes you feel unpleasant. An interactive ad arouses you more than a non-interactive ad. Therefore, you'll be more pleasant when you watch an animating banner than a static banner. So we made it as a hypothesis 1b. To test these hypotheses, we did a field experiment involving 141 Facebook and Twitter users. The result shown in the chart supports our hypothesis. Further, this research shows that it was the arousal-seeking tendency that explains why the meta-motivational states, telic versus paratelic mode, influence participants' attitudes toward the ads the way they did. As you can see in the study, our hypotheses are general, pertaining to the interactive versus non-interactive ads. To test the hypothesis, we used only one kind of ads, static banner and animating banner, as a sample. As a basic research, there was no studies like ours. This research contributes to the theory, as this study was one of the first empirical marketing studies to utilize reversal theory. This research contributes to the online advertising research by incorporating the meta-motivational state when online users come in contact with the interactive ad. I hope that you can see some characteristics of basic research from this example. If you want to know more about this research, I invite you to read my paper. Applied research. Unlike the basic research, applied research is intended to generate knowledge that is specific for a certain situation, for a certain organization. Thus, it has limited applicability outside the organization or situation, limiting the value of research. Yet, this type of research provides the most valuable information for the firm, helping them take actions with confidence. Let's look at some examples in the next slide. Examples. The first example is, should McDonald's add Italian pasta dinners to its menu? Not many people outside McDonald's would find it relevant, and the findings would not be generalizable beyond the research setting because McDonald's target market who participated in the research is not likely to be representative of the population. The second example is, should Procter & Gamble add a high-priced home teeth bleaching kit to its product line? Who cares about this finding if you're not working for P&G? How can the research findings be used by other companies? Not much. Okay, now that you know enough about basic and applied research, let me test your understanding. Here is a quiz. Which of the following statement is correct? A. Basic research is always easier than applied research. I might be biased, but I feel this is actually the other way around. One of the goals of the basic research is to make contributions by proving hypotheses. This entails not only a thorough understanding of the literature, but also the use of scientifically rigorous methods. Further, anonymous reviewers will evaluate the merit of the research through so-called double-blind review process, in which both reviewers and researchers do not know the identity of the other parties. On the other hand, most of the time, applied research uses very simple analysis tools such as descriptive statistics and cross-tabulation, because clients would not understand sophisticated statistics. Of course, there are times when very sophisticated methods are called for, but by and large, most of the time, what you learned in this course is just sufficient. Further, there is no third parties that evaluate the scientific rigor involved in the research. In addition, data collection is easier with applied research as market research practitioners outsource the data collection in client research, whereas researchers conducting basic research have to compete to get grant for business research, and oftentimes grant for business research is rarely available. In short, A is wrong. B. Basic research is less scientific than applied research. Well, this is wrong. Reliability and validity of the research is an important issue when reviewers judge the quality of the research. Thus, sophisticated, rigorous, and state-of-the-art scientific method must be used in basic research. C. Basic research has greater applicability than applied research. This is correct. D. Applied research tend to be generalized better than basic research. This statement is wrong. It is the other way around. Okay, give yourself a round of applause if you got it correct.